there used to be a clock there. I came in a few days before school was about ready to start, and my clock was there in pieces. So I'm gonna make a clock. I'd like to stop looking like a fool every time I tell my students a time and point to a blank spot on the wall. I could go and order one through the school. They'd give it to me. I could put it up on the wall. It would be boring. And we have a fully loaded shop here. We have CNC machines, woodworking equipment, welding equipment, metalworking equipment. I can really make whatever I want, and so that's the route I'm gonna go. So I'm not just gonna work through this project as if it's my own personal project. I'm gonna work through it with the mindset that I may turn this into a classroom project, something I could do with a group of about 20 students who are freshmen through senior level. So once I had the initial idea to make my own clock, I did what I tell my students to do, which is I went to Google and I did some research, and I was looking for projects or ideas for inspiration, and I landed on this backlit sign idea. If I was doing it with my students, I would probably have them do the research and then do some back of the napkin sketching. Myself, I just jumped into CAD. So the first idea I came up with just had our department around the edge and a pirate logo that would have acrylic in it in the center. I wanted the numbers or the time indicators to also be backlit, so I came up with this number piece where I just had the quarters. Didn't like that quite as much, so my third idea was having tick marks all the way around, no numbers. A little simpler, but I like the idea of how much light would come through on something like this. So my part just came out of the laser cutter. Overall, I think my designs are gonna work pretty well. This is the back piece where like all of the electronics would sit. This piece is good. I just have to set that up on our CNC router. The two clock faces came out looking pretty good. I like the design of it. I have the numbers. Acrylic would sit at least in the pirate head section. I would imagine I would change my numbers to do that as well. The second design I think I like a little more, so I won't worry about the numbers. It just has the tick marks going all the way around. The one thing I didn't catch in CAD that showed up in both clock faces was when the clock face is sitting on the front, this ring actually overlaps the top edge of the numbers or those tick marks, so there wouldn't be any light that would shine through there, which I don't really like. So I think I need to bring these down and maybe make them a little bit wider, and then I think I'll run with that one and I'll be able to throw that design in our CAM software and get it ready for the CNC router as well. I'm not sure I would have my students walk through this. It's a pretty long process to get all this set up on our laser cutter. If I could find a more efficient way, I definitely would, because I already found some things that I need to change on this that I would have just wasted some of our material, like our plywood, if I wouldn't have done the mock-up. So update CAD, jump into CAM, run it on the router. So one thing my students always want to do is do kind of router work, machining work on both the front and the back of an object. And it always just takes so long to teach them how to do that. I thought this might be a good opportunity to try to figure out a way to make that a part of the project. So when I machined this out, I machined out a couple locator pins that I can just use dowel rods for, so those go in. This was machined out on our router out of a big sheet like that. So my plan is to just take this piece, flip it over, rotate it away, so that way I have a bottom left-hand corner I'll be working. Parts are finished, cut out from the overall pieces, and tabs are moved just with a bandsaw and a belt sander, and cleaned all those up, a little hand sanding. Overall, everything turned out well. I know I'm gonna have some issues because the wood I was working with was mostly scrap and the plywood is warped. So as the tool paths ran, there's gonna be some inconsistencies in how those pieces ran and how deep they went. I can see one of my magnet slots really didn't get cut out, and I know some of my shelf pieces that I have in here where some acrylic will go aren't gonna work as well as I'd hope. So clock face should be good. The other two pieces worked just fine. This will all stack up like this. Clock face will go on top. Should work pretty well. We're now moving on to the part that's probably my weakest skill of everything that I teach, which is electricity and soldering electronics. So I need to figure out the best way and layout to get this LED strip into our big cavity, so that way the light can shine through the clock face with that plastic in there and give us a nice cool look. All right, so here's what I'm thinking. I have my battery pack, which will probably just sit right, well, probably can't sit right in the middle because my clock kit's gonna be there. So maybe I have to have this down. I can have that position whichever way I want. Have that clock kit there. But something like this, and then maybe having like a hexagon of these LED strips kind of going around the edge here, which hopefully would shine the light through all the components. But maybe I would do like a hexagon and then maybe a strip there, a little triangle maybe. So I'm just gonna work on the layout, and then I'm just gonna kind of dry fit everything together using alligator clips to just kind of make sure it all works and connects, lights are working, and start trying to solder together, which I'm definitely not an expert at. So this isn't working. My original idea, because I'm not that great with the electronics, making sure everything's gonna fit and work and solder it all together, not functioning. There's just too much of a rat's nest using these alligator clips, which I like for almost every other electronics project we do, but we've been working on it so long. I started this at night and now it's day. No, I'm just joking. I stopped and came back to this towards the end of the day here. On to the solder. So that process was frustrating. The soldering of the tiny little connections with the wire, I struggled with mightily. But at the end of the day, we got it working. Well, I guess two issues with my setup here. One, I think I would have liked to have an exterior switch, probably on the bottom, so that way if I wanted to turn the LED lights on and off, I wouldn't have to take the face of the clock off, turn off the power on the battery switch, and then put the face of the clock back on. The other piece that I ran into was when you have the face of the clock on here and you turn on the LEDs, I don't really have any light where the battery pack is. And I probably could come through and desolder something here and put a little LED strip on top of that case. It wouldn't really affect too much probably, but again, running out of time. It looks halfway decent without it. Overall, actually, I think it looks really good for just kind of a first attempt at something like this. But that was horrible. I like doing things like that occasionally that I struggle with because it really allows me to understand my students' point of view. When they're sitting there complaining, I can give them tips and I can empathize with them because that was a struggle. Moving on, let's glue it all together. All right, final thoughts here. This is a pretty cool clock. I like it, but I would not run this with the level of students I was thinking of. I really wanted to run it with kind of like my second semester freshman or maybe my second level manufacturing or engineering students, but it's a little too complex and it would take a little bit too long in its current form. If I was gonna do it with those students, I would just do the clock face, which I know has been a shop class project before. I've seen it run. If I was gonna do it this one, the way I ran it, it'd be an upper level project. But overall, I'm pretty happy with it. I probably will slap this up on the wall. Now when I point to that spot, students won't think I'm a moron anymore. Maybe. Thanks for watching the build of my clock project. If you like this project and are looking for more shop class project, go ahead and watch this video here. And thanks for watching.